Hey YouTube, Freedom for Kaz here. Hey guys, I'm making this video today in response to some comments that were posted on a video of mine. Now, I'm going to show you the comments, and then I'm going to read the comments, and I'm going to answer those comments. So, I'm going to cut away to show you the comments that were posted on my video. Eminem Chrysler, Super Bowl commercial, whatever. And this video was in response to the Super Bowl commercial that had Eminem in it that was played on Super Bowl Sunday. Okay, the comments were posted on my channel were this. Hellhole to you. I live here and stay here in a very nice area. Put 3 kids in college that graduated from Detroit public schools. Just because you don't like it doesn't mean everybody don't like it. Just because Detroit is down doesn't mean we bow down to you. Life goes on. Racist prick. Okay? And then he almost repeats himself in the very next comment, but he changes just a couple words. Hellhole to you. I live here and stay in a very nice area. Put 3 kids in college that graduated from DPS. Just because you don't like it doesn't mean everybody else don't like it. Just because Detroit is down don't mean we bow down to you. Life goes on, racist prick. And then he goes on, and my response to that was, wow, I don't have enough space to type a reply, so I'm going to reply to these comments by making a video. Keep an eye out for it. Then I went to this person's channel to see what his channel was about. Why don't you make a video showing your face? I went to your channel, but I don't see any uploads of you showing your face. He did have uploads, but only of news clips and things like that. He didn't have any videos where he shows his face. And then he says, you don't even live in Detroit. Most of the white suburbanites that stay in suburban Detroit, include your dumbass, also hated Detroit, even when Detroit wasn't that bad. Not only did you over-exaggerate the misery in Detroit, you laid it on pretty thick. It's not that bad. Your suburbs not only is a breeding group for child molesters, almost all the white kids are drugged out, on dope, prescriptions, spray paint, whiteout, and any other shit they can stick up their nose. Those are the 3 comments that he made, and I had the one comment saying that I was going to make a video in response to him. Well, since this person pretty much was on the attack of me personally and doesn't really know me personally, what this person probably should have done was ask a few questions about my viewpoint. Not assume that I'm a racist, because if anybody went to my channel, you could see that I have friends, subscribers, and subscriptions to many ethnic groups. I have white folks, black folks, Chinese folks, people all over the world. Okay? I don't do racist videos. I never claimed to be a racist. I'm not a racist. In fact, I have an invitation from Pastor Dowell to come down to his house and stay for the weekend. If you don't know who Pastor Dowell is, I suggest you look it up. Okay, Pastor Dowell is a pastor from the South, and him and I are communicating pretty well. I seem to like the guy. He seems to like me. We share videos all the time. We email back and forth all the time. Not a racist. I can't help you there. Then you call me a prick. Well, I don't understand where you're coming from. Okay, but what you should have done was ask some questions about why is your viewpoint like this? Okay, because up until the age 6, I did live in Detroit. Okay, I did. And we lived in Detroit when the 1967 riots were going on. Okay, I was 6 months old when the riots were going on. My mom remembers the tanks going down Van Dyke Avenue into the heart of the city of Detroit. And we barricaded ourselves in our home in Detroit, in the basement. We barricaded ourselves. I was 6 months old. We lived in Detroit. When my brother was 12 or 13 years old, he was singled out by a group of black men, of older teenagers. From what we can recall, there was like 5 or 6 of them. They beat my brother's ass. They beat my brother's ass so bad, he had to go to the hospital, and they had to perform surgery on his face because his scars and his bleeding was so bad that they couldn't stop it. But you sit here and tell me how Detroit wasn't so bad, and I agree with you. There was a point in time when Detroit wasn't so bad. In 1984, the Tigers won the World Series. Okay? I used to go down to Hart Plaza all the time for the ethnic festivals, all the time. Throughout the mid-'80s into the early 90s, I used to go down there all the time. All the time. Detroit wasn't so bad back then. But now, Detroit is a hellhole. Now, 75% of the people who go to high school don't graduate. 3 out of every 4 children don't graduate. 6 out of every 8 children don't graduate. 9 out of every 12 children don't graduate. Okay, I'm honored to hear that your children graduated. Okay, that's great. Because the challenges there are enormous. But don't sit here and point a finger at me and call me a racist and call me a prick and tell me that I don't know what I'm talking about. I lived in Detroit for some period of time. My family lived in the city of Detroit for many, many, many years. And then we decided to get out because it was getting worse and worse and worse. So don't sit here and tell me that I don't know because I'm a suburbanite. And don't sit here and tell me about all the drugs that us white people use. Okay? Drugs aren't racist. Drugs don't care what color you are, what race you are, or what kind of drugs that you use. There's more drugs in the city of Detroit, and there's probably the same amount of drugs in the suburban areas. But don't compare apples to oranges because the drug war isn't really a drug war. The drug war is a scam. If this country wanted to stop drugs, this country could. Plain and simple. They could shut down the drugs if they wanted to. But they don't. Because there's too much money made for it. If you can't figure out what's going on with the automotive industry in the city of Detroit, okay, then you're blind. You're absolutely blind. In the 50s and 60s, 99% of all the automotive parts in the American automotive industry were made in America. Now we're lucky if it's 50%. Detroit didn't get this way overnight. One of the biggest things that affected Detroit was the NAFTA agreement, the North American Free Trade Agreement, because that started pumping jobs out of the Midwest, especially here in Michigan, to countries like Mexico, India, China, and God knows where else. And the people were left behind here to go from a $20, $30 an hour job to going to working at Walmart, China Mart. But yet you want to sit here and you want to poke fingers at me by calling me a racist and calling me a prick and saying that all us white folks are using drugs and this and that and the other. But you know what? You don't use your brain. Use your brain and ask questions. You should have asked me, why did you make this video and what is your point of view? But you don't do that. You just come right out and you attack. Oh, you're a drug user, you're a prick, you're a racist, you're this, you're that, you're so on and so forth. No, I'm not. No, I'm not. I live close enough to the city. I may not live in Detroit, but I live close enough to the city to know what's going on in the city. Okay? I don't live out in Bloomfield or Rochester Hills or Romeo or out west, in Ann Arbor or whatever. I don't. I live close enough to the city to know. I am in the city at least once a week, driving through, going downtown for whatever. So don't sit here and tell me that I don't know. Don't sit here and call me names like a prick and a racist, when that is like the farthest from the truth. Why don't you use your brain next time and ask a question instead of poking fingers and saying, hey, you're this, that, and the other, because that's not true. And I'll give you a challenge. Why don't you make a video in response to this video and ask me some questions? Ask me questions like, well, why do I feel this way? You call me all these names and call out the white race like as if I attacked some ethnic group. I never once pointed out any ethnic group. I never once said it was because of this group or that group or that group. I said it was Detroit as a whole. I said it was the automotive industry as a whole. I didn't attack anybody. Not one single person did I attack. In fact, if you would have understood my video response, all I did was tell the truth about the city. Anybody can do research about the city of Detroit and know that we are the murder capital of the world, and know that DPS students, 3/4 of them don't graduate. Those facts cannot be ignored. They cannot be. But because you get angry at my video, you gotta call me names because it makes you feel better. Use your brain next time. Ask questions before you point the finger and accuse.